Yes, you've read that title correctly, and I know some of you are thinking, Michael, there's no way you lost 70 pounds in 2 weeks, and let me assure you, that's exactly what I did. So typically, I weigh anywhere between 180 pounds and 185 pounds. Back in February of 2025, I started to notice incremental weight gain of about 1 pound and 1.5 pound per day. And me being the absolute genius that I am, I attributed that weight gain to my increased weight on my back squat. So, in addition to the pound and a half per day, I noticed that my calves were getting bigger. And back squats being a very leg oriented exercise, I figured more weight, bigger calves, it all checks out to me. But for those of you that don't know, doing back squats will not get you bigger calves. Back squats primarily will get you bigger glutes and they'll get you bigger thighs. And I remember talking to my boss about it at work. I'm like, hey, boss, I'm up to 187, I'm up to 190, I'm up to 191. I think I'll hit 200 here pretty soon. And he was kind of concerned about the rate of which I was gaining the weight. And me, I just figured he was jealous of my juicy calves. He wanted calves like mine. And that's a thought that I had with me for quite some time. Fast forward a couple weeks, I'm out having lunch with a friend of mine. We go out to a pho restaurant and I order my typical order. It's a noodle bowl with some crab cheese wontons on the side. And typically I can eat all that food by myself, no problem. Still have some room for some dessert or whatever after the fact. So when I tell you I end up taking half of that noodle bowl home with me, that's a huge cause for concern. Now, when I woke up that morning, I got myself ready, you got myself dressed, and when I went to go put my pants on, I had to adjust my belt outward a couple notches. So, in addition to having my calves being bigger, I had gained mass around my abdomen. And not only that, but also my feet had gotten swollen. And when I tell you my feet were swollen, I mean they were so swollen that it left me with three options. Option one, I call National Geographic and like, hey, I found Bigfoot. Option two, I take a bunch of pictures of these puppies and I create me a Feet Finder account. Or option three, I go down to the urgent care and I have some medical professionals give me a deeper look at what's going on with me. So obviously options one and two would have been the more lucrative options, but I decided to go with option three because at this point it was kind of concerning how I went from a little bit of weight gain and bigger calves to a little bit of weight gain, bigger calves, and everything from the abdomen down becoming swollen. So that evening I go into the urgent care. I explain to them what's going on. Hey, incremental weight gain, pound and a half per day, swollen from the abdomen down. They do a few tests. They do blood work, urine tests. They weigh me. They do some imaging tests, X-ray, CAT scan, MRI, ultrasound. At least two of the four of those, I can't remember exactly which imaging they did. But when the doctor finally comes out, he lets me know what his initial assessment of what I have is. And keep in mind, when I went in today, or when I went in that day, I'm sorry, I was 212 pounds, which is 27 pounds up from what my base weight should be. So that's a pretty significant jump. Doctor comes out, he tells me that he thinks I have something called nephrotic syndrome, which is a kidney condition that causes me to excrete a particular protein in my urine called albumin. And since I'm losing so much of that protein, my body is forced to retain a lot of liquid. So he told me it was pretty serious and that I needed to go to the hospital. Like it wasn't really a, hey, you should. It was, hey, you need to go to the hospital. And I wasn't really fond of the idea. I had plans the next day to pick my mom up from the airport since she was coming in town on business. But it sounded like I really didn't have a choice in the matter. So I told him I'm more than happy to go to the hospital if that's what his recommendation was. But I drove myself to the urgent care. I don't plan to get in an ambulance to drive to go over to the hospital. So I told him, I want to be able to drive myself over there. So they end up agreeing, but the nurse makes me promise her that I'm going to drive straight to the hospital, no stops, go straight to the hospital. And me, I'm thinking, I'm a fully grown man and I do what I want. So I drive straight to the hospital, no stops. I get there, and the security looks at me kind of funny because I pull up and I still have the IV in my arm, but I also have a folder with all my patient information on it, room number, and all that. So they let me in, they let me up. This is about 2:30, 3 in the morning. So I get there, one of the doctors comes in just to check on me, see how I'm doing, and give me a more thorough estimate of the condition she thinks I have. So she tells me she thinks I have membranous nephropathy, which I know is kind of a mouthful. I will leave the name of this condition in the description, so if you want to do some research on it, you can. And it's an autoimmune condition where essentially my immune system's attacking my kidneys, which is causing your kidneys. The main role for your kidneys is to filter. So typically, the holes in your kidneys are small, so they can filter. But if my kidney had holes that were big enough for the albumin to slip through and cause me issues. So she tells me they need to run a few more tests and probably do a biopsy on one of my kidneys. So a biopsy, they just go in, they take a small piece of my kidney and they run some tests on it. And this, like I said, it's about 3 in the morning, so she leaves hoping that I'll get some sleep. So I text my little brother. I'm like, hey, can you pick mom up from the airport tomorrow? Or today at this point, can you pick mom up from the airport in a few hours? And I let my boss know what's going on too, because obviously I'm not going to be making it into work if they got me in the hospital. And then a few hours later, I get a text from my mother, who I didn't tell I was in the hospital, and she asked me, she's like, hey, are you in the hospital? And I text her back, I'm like, yeah, wondering like, how does she know I'm in the hospital? But we use the Find My app for the Apple devices. It works great in emergency situations. Helped me drive right to the scene of an accident when she was in a car accident a few years back. Strongly recommend getting that app set up if you don't already for your loved ones. That way, if there's ever a case of an emergency, you're able to pull up. Recently, my mom was in another car accident this year, and her watch texted me that she was in a car accident, so I was able to know pretty quick and get a hold of her pretty quick, and she is doing excellent. She's in great condition after all that. But getting back to the story, she texts me, asked me if I'm in the hospital. I let her know, yes, I'm in the hospital. It's not a big deal. Little bro's gonna pick you up from the airport. We can discuss it more when I see you. I didn't want to tell her prior to her flight because then she'd be stressed out the whole flight, and that's not something I want my mom to worry about because like I'm not dying. It's not super life threatening. So a few hours go by. My boss, his wife, my mom, and my little brother all arrive at the hospital, and the doctor explains to all of us together, what's going on with me, the treatment plan. So while I'm in the hospital, what they're doing is they're giving me a diuretic called Lasix, which they give me through the IV, and it makes me urinate a lot, so I can release some of that extra weight by getting rid of it that way. And they also want to give me an infusion called rituximab, which is designed to combat the condition. So I'd be getting an initial infusion of the rituximab, and then a few weeks would go by, I'd get another one, and then possibly 6 months down the line, if I need to, I'd get another one. So game plan is set. I get discharged after a week. They give me medication. So they give me a pill form of the Lasix I was taking and a couple other medications. And the whole time I'm in the hospital, I also have this cough that won't go away. And it's a very peculiar cough. Dry cough, no mucus whatsoever. But when it happens is the weird thing. I'll be midway through a sentence, I'll be coughing. Anytime I would laugh, I would be coughing. I could be hanging out doing nothing, I'd be coughing. Very strange. Robitussin didn't work. Dayquil, NyQuil didn't work. So I go back to the hospital shortly after I get discharged. I'm like, hey, I've got this cough. It doesn't go away. Interrupts me when I'm speaking. Very inconvenient. I want to make sure that I get everything situated. So they run some more tests on me. Turns out I also have pneumonia. Okay, another mystery solved. Awesome. So they give me a 1 week course of antibiotics to knock off the pneumonia. So I'm thinking, okay, pneumonia, check, knock that out. I've got my first medication for my nephrotic syndrome that they gave me. So I'm thinking my weight's going to go down, everything's going to be good, and I'm not going to have any issues, right? So over the first couple of weeks, I did lose about 13 pounds. And, while I'm going through all of that, I got the pneumonia figured out, but after the week of antibiotics, I still have the cough. So either I've got super pneumonia or there's got to be something else going on here. So I end up going back to the hospital. Hey, I still have the cough. I'm putting on weight again, and there's not really anything they're telling me that's different. They run some tests again. They're like, well, this is kind of just what your condition entails. Like the weight gain will kind of go there. So eventually they end up putting me on an additional medication that was supposed to reduce the swelling, because I just continued to balloon slowly but surely. Weight was going in the wrong direction. So as time goes on, like I'm noticing, my belt, I'm having to adjust it one notch more, and eventually it gets to a point where I can't button my pants up because my abdomen has gotten to the point where I look like I'm 9 months pregnant. So, and every time I go back to the hospital, they don't give me any different response. So, one night I'm at work and I get a sharp pain in my back, and it's not when you hurt your back. It's a weird feeling just in your back. So I'm thinking that's got to be kidney related. So I leave work and I head to the hospital, and I call my little brother and I let him know, hey, I'm going back to the hospital. Here's what's going on. And it's a 20-minute drive to the hospital. And shortly after I start driving, the pain intensifies, goes from about a 5 to an 11. And I'm telling you, the 20-minute drive there felt like it would go on forever. The excruciating pain, the worst pain I've felt in my life. It felt like something was going to erupt or rupture inside of me. I didn't know what was going on. It was one of those pains that makes you reflect on every questionable choice you've made in life and try to pinpoint which event caused you to suffer this pain right now. Like I thought, hey, this might be game over. That the pain was that severe. So I end up getting to the hospital after I'm swearing the whole 20 minutes of me just F this hurts, so bleep, 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 expletives left and right. I finally get to the hospital after that 20 minutes. And I'm not kidding. The second I walk inside the hospital, the pain goes away. So I'm explaining to the nurses, what happened, what my symptoms were, worst pain of my life, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And, and I still have this weird cough too. So can we maybe get that situated? And so they tell me, hey, there's nothing we can do, but we can give you a referral for a kidney doctor in the hospital, which the last time I was admitted into the hospital, they had me a full team of kidney doctors. So why do I need a referral for a kidney doctor when there's plenty of them in the hospital? So I'm unfamiliar with what the referral process is. So I leave, have some breakfast with my little brother, and then I spin around back to the hospital and I go towards the kidney clinic. And, I give her my name and all that good stuff. And she says, you don't have an appointment. And I say, yeah, I know, but they gave me a referral. And I didn't know, so when they give you a referral, they have to reach out to you to set up an appointment. So, I was a little frustrated about they didn't really explain that well to me. And like I said, I feel something is wrong. Something isn't right. It's more than just, hey, this is a part of your condition. But they tell me that it's a month out. So I have to wait a month to see a kidney specialist to see what we can do about the issues I'm having with my kidneys. So obviously, as the time's going on, I'm gaining more weight. So if my body dysmorphia wasn't bad before, it was outrageous at this point, because usually I like to keep myself pretty fit, and now I'm in a point where I've got a swollen belly, and it was getting to me emotionally. So I finally get seen by the kidney specialist, and I'm telling you, this was a 15-minute appointment tops that I waited a month for. So he goes in, asks me some questions like, hey, do you know what membranous nephropathy is? I gave him my abridged version of what it was. Like, that's excellent, cool, so you understand it. We're gonna adjust your medication amounts, and hopefully that'll start to get you back to where you need to be. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. Let's get that situated. So after he adjusts my medication, I'm not seeing any substantial change at all. Like, it's like, why do we bother adjusting my medication? This stuff's not even working. So I end up going back to the hospital. One night I'm just, hey, I've got to go back. They've got to give me a different answer. So I end up going 2-3 in the morning, and they run some tests, X-rays. This time they come back and like, hey, we did some X-rays, and I've got some fluid building up in my abdomen and around my lungs. So that cough is from the fluid around my lungs. So what ended up happening is the fluid kept building up, and it actually ended up compressing one of my lungs. So they end up doing a procedure they end up admitting me in the hospital. But before they send me upstairs, I'm still down in the ER, they do a procedure called a paracentesis. So they end up putting a needle in the side of my abdomen, and they start draining all of that liquid out. They end up filling up about 5 containers. I forget the size of the container, but it pretty much looked like a old school milk jug, but like the glass bottles. They made about 5 of those, and I lost 10 pounds just like that. Just 10 pounds gone from that. So I'm like, okay, awesome, we're getting somewhere. But when I went in that day, I'm at the highest I've ever been. I'm at 250 pounds when I go in. They do this paracentesis procedure, and I drop down to 240. So we're starting to make a little bit of progress. The next day, they do an addition. So they took the fluid around my abdomen. I still have fluid around my lungs. The next day they come in and they do what's called a thoracentesis. Similar procedure, but targeting the fluid that's around my lungs. So that's awesome. They get that down. I'm down to another 5 pounds, but my lung is collapsed. So they give me inhalation and exhalation devices that I have to use on a daily basis while I'm in the hospital to reinflate that lung. Because it was at a point where I couldn't tie my. It took me 2 to 3 minutes to tie my shoes because bending down was a struggle with the swelling, and I would run out. I'd be winded doing it. Like getting in and out of my car was a hassle. Going up and down stairs, I had trouble breathing, and I couldn't really pinpoint why. But once we got that fluid out and I inflated my lung, everything started to go well, and they put me back on the Lasix, and this time their plan was to make sure that I got back down to 180 pounds before they discharged me this time. So this time around, sounds like there's a different plan. Everything's good this time around. I'm in the hospital for 2 weeks this time around, and once I got my weight back down to 180 pounds. So that's 70 pounds, 2 weeks. It's currently September. My weight's still between 180, 185 pounds. I'm reacting well to the medication. Moral of the story is when you start to notice changes to your body which you find unusual, seek medical attention as quickly as you can. It might be nothing, or it might be something like what I went through where, this whole endeavor started back in February, and it took until May for me to get a solution that actually worked. Even though, I was seeing these medical professionals, it felt like I was performing, like I had to unlock a secret quest. Like, make a visit to the hospital, get turned down 7 times, and on the 8th time, if you show up in a red shirt, we'll actually fix your problem. So I wasn't really thrilled with the way my situation was handled. I felt it wasn't really taken seriously. And what's funny is that morning that I got admitted, the head nurse that was on duty came in. She's like, "Hey, we're about to do a shift change. I just wanted to check in on you. Looked at your file. I see you've been in and out the last few months. It looks like we haven't really been doing a good job of taking care of you." And I'm thinking, who are you telling? I've been saying that for a minute. So to hear that from the nurse, it was kind of reassuring, but also frustrating. So you understand you've not been taking care of me. So what are we doing? But right now, like I said, my weight is back down to 180, about 182, 183. So if you found this video helpful, please like, comment, subscribe. If you know anyone who's gone through a similar experience, share this video with them. And I hope the rest of you have a wonderful day.